Hello, my little filmer dudes and my super sleuths. Thank you for joining me on another Let's Solve DTF St. Louis. I already know I'm late. I mentioned this last week, aka a couple days ago, aka my last video, and I mentioned why. So this one will definitely be a little, it's definitely gonna be late, and then the fourth one will be just a tiny bit late. And then we're gonna be all caught up. But hey, you know what? It's fine. That's the nature of moving across the entire state for you. I do this still because it's fun. Also because I like credibility. And I want to say that I have also added a second theory to my DTF theory decks. So we'll get to that at the end, of course, when we talk about the theories. First, we're gonna do a little bit of a episode review, because episode 3, oh my god, it was a cornucopia of reveals. Twisty reveals, because I don't think that these were full reveals. They're reveals, but I also think they're red herrings. Nice. Honestly, this has been my favorite episode so far. I don't know if this is like millennial humor or not, but this episode was hilarious to me. There was also a lot of great moments with each character individually and each set of characters as a pairing. And it was really nice to see these characters interact with each other, either in a new way or ways that we were expecting or ways we were not expecting. And my mouth dropped multiple times throughout this episode, and I had to like rewind and be like, oh, did you see that? And I am obsessed with David Harbour's acting in this entire series. He's clearly playing someone on the spectrum, or at the very least a neurodivergent individual, and it is incredible. His honest earnestness and genuinity in this portrayal is, to me, it's outstanding. I think it's wonderful. And the things that he has to do, once again, that breakdance on the chair, on the bench, if that wasn't him, I mean, I don't see how it could not have been him. In my brain, that was David Harbour, and that was incredible. David Harbour, he's never been more charismatic, more lovable, and never been more misunderstood. This is incredible. There's nothing I want more than for David Harbour to be nominated at the end of the year for the awards, any awards, just nominated and then maybe win. It's still early in the year to tell, but he deserves to be up there with at least with the nominations. My goodness. Alrighty, so let's first talk about the episode clues. Clues that I'm not sure what else to think, and I actually want you guys to help me out to figure out each of these clues. So please comment what you think your theories are. Floyd's first wife, the fortune teller. Who was Floyd's first wife? The only thing we were given is that she was a fortune teller. Or was she really a scam artist? I am not saying that all fortune tellers are scam artists. I'm just saying in this particular situation where Floyd, his first and foremost goal is to make other people happy, I wonder if this particular scam artist took advantage of Floyd's kindness in that way. And I wonder if the fortune teller wife telling Floyd that Floyd couldn't have any kids, not of real science by the way, was the very thing that led Floyd to be physically self-destructive and gain so much weight and have his mental health break basically. Now, modern love, mistake or secret setup. Notice when Floyd first gets that notification in the van for DTF St. Louis for Modern Love, Clark up until that point had no real interest in what Floyd was actually saying. He was disassociated AF. And that is until he heard the ding from Modern Love. And then notice when he said that was a mistake in reference to Modern Love when Clark was talking to the detectives, I don't think Clark was referring to it was a mistake that Floyd ended up meeting a man. I think he meant it was a mistake. I didn't know it was a man that I was paying to give to Floyd. I also think it's a little bit of a double meaning in that it was a mistake to do that to Floyd. Like he feels a little bit of guilt for it. Because I do still believe that Clark did pay Modern Love or coerce Modern Love or something. He convinced Modern Love to meet with Floyd, but I think perhaps Clark thought that Modern Love was a woman as well. And finally, the second bike. We have found the second bike. Turns out I was right about the second bike. Clark did buy 2 bikes, and one of them was intended for Emmy, yet she had no interest. And honestly, I would argue that Carol also had no interest. Now we'll talk about Carol's plan in a second. But the second bike was indeed given to the Smirniches because Floyd was seeing later, or rather he was seeing first riding that bicycle, and then we see that it was Carol being like, I'll do it. And so I think that the bike was given to the Smirniches because it is a healthy bike. So like having Floyd also ride the bike would probably be a good idea. Yeah. But here's the thing about bikes, about any bicycle at all. Anybody can ride it. There's no theoretical or technical age limit on a bicycle in which you need a license in order to ride one, to operate one. You can just operate one if you know how to. Even if you don't know how to, you can still operate one at your own risk. But you can operate one. I'm saying a child, a preteen, a teenager could also operate one if they so choose to. Alrighty, so Carol's plan. I think I figured out Carol's plan. I think Carol was just trying to get life insurance for Floyd, and that's literally it. I don't think that she was planning to murder Floyd. I think she was just planning to have life insurance so that Floyd could really have that mental pressure off of him and so that he could start working out. I think she was protecting both her future and her husband at the same time. I don't think that there is any malicious death intent to all of this. I think she genuinely wanted to help Floyd out and potentially, I mean, hey, a wife and a husband know each other better than anybody else. So to me, it is believable that Carol would know something more about Floyd. I mean, it's Floyd. It's Floyd. We've gotten to know Floyd pretty well. I have, and I think that Floyd having a mental mental block on himself for like, oh my goodness, I gained a lot of weight, I don't have a health insurance, and if I start working out, start doing all these things, and if I go, like, what's gonna happen? So it's a snowball effect, you know. Inside Out 2, anyone? I mean, in Carol's own words, I'll do what it takes. Meaning she'll sleep for the insurance so that Floyd can start feeling better about himself and start losing weight. And you know, she can start the good snowball effect. She is, in fact, a go-getter. Right? This is kind of genius because all of this is just games for her. She didn't really actually like Clark. She wasn't actually trying to get with Clark to leave Floyd. I think she started to develop feelings after the fact, just a little bit after the fact. And then once she was at that concert, she realized this is wrong and she wanted no part of it, even if it meant sacrificing the life insurance. Hence why Clark stepped in to help Floyd, because Clark loved Floyd. And I think Clark realized he wronged Floyd. He has been wronging Floyd this whole time by sleeping with his wife. So if he can't get him the health insurance, then he can at least help ease Floyd's mind by bringing him along on exercises, by providing some meds so that Floyd doesn't have to financially provide for them. Things like that, things that maybe perhaps might set Clark up to look like he killed Floyd. So, wild theory time! And suspects, I guess, but wild theory time! All right, theory number 1. Richard, of course. I still have a heavy gamble on Richard, so let's start here. As I said would happen in this episode, Floyd and Richard are finally getting along. Somehow, some way, they did it. It was incredible. So, will then, therefore, DTF St. Louis break Richard's heart, causing him to lash out at Floyd? And if so, what then does that mean? Did Richard plan for all of this to transpire and he got Floyd down to the pool house all on his own? I don't think so, because that seems a little too elaborate for a teenager. Let's start at the beginning. Not really. Just when Floyd and Richard were talking to each other, and Floyd was saying, hey, you should say hello. Richard starts to leave, and then he double takes, he backtracks, picks up a rock, and throws it at the house. He did that deliberately to annoy Floyd. But yet, Floyd does not let that get to him. He instead takes Richard out on a father-son outing, and it was so touching. And in Richard's mind, to a 13 or 14-year-old child, this is a core memory in the making. Another Inside Out reference. Richard is never going to forget this night. It is what has fully changed his worldview, his belief on Floyd, and that's something that's very hard to accomplish. So, with that being said, if Richard then were therefore to ever find out that Floyd is on DTF St. Louis, I do believe that would devastate a 13, 14-year-old child who just bonded with his stepfather for the very first time, or very first few times, rather. So perhaps Richard did kill Floyd intentionally, or perhaps it was on accident? At this point, we have to entertain the idea that Richard lashing out at Floyd was enough for Floyd's heart to go into overload. At the same time, we cannot dispel any other ideas that Richard might have intentionally somehow done this and accomplished it in a masterful kind of a way that an adult would. So theory number 2, it was an accident, but Floyd's fault. Now think about it. Floyd is massively insecure about his weight, about his physique. So what if Floyd, having all this newfound help from Clark and Carol, kind of overdid it, and he accidentally went too far and did the deed himself? Now, whether or not it was Richard or Floyd, I do believe that this next bit it applies to either situation. Whether it was Richard, whether it was Floyd, Carol and Clark are covering up for this happenstance, where they're either covering up for Richard or they're covering up technically for Clark. You see, I think that Carol is kind of playing a little bit of a 4D chess here with all of this. I think that she and Clark both agreed to make it look like somebody else had killed Floyd. I think perhaps that Carol might have had like a secondary plan for all of this. Yeah, she agreed with Clark to get, Floyd to the pool house to cover things up, but I think she might have had like an ulterior motive to frame Clark, because everything already points to Clark. So maybe she saw an opportunity to make extra money somehow. Maybe by framing Clark, she might get some money some way. I tried to research insurance scam frauds and all this and that, and then I thought, oh no, my FBI agent must be so concerned, so I stopped. So it's fine, but I do think that Floyd died or was killed somewhere else, not the pool house, and was taken to the pool house. I'm doing it again. If you know from Only Murders in the Building in season 5, I'm doing it again. The body was moved. It was killed somewhere else and placed here. Why? Because the body was cold. Literally the exact same reasons. That is it, my filmer dudes and my super sleuths. That is all I got for episode 3. We will find out with episode 4 soon. And my sushi media links are in the description below. Leave a comment. What do you think happened with Floyd? What are your thoughts? Once again, sushi media links down in the description below, and I will see you next time. You've just been modified.